Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and I am so pumped today. I always love when I get to do one of my most requested videos, and today we're going to talk about and go deep, hands-on, into the differences between wash, beam, spot, hybrid, and more fixtures. Let's dive in. Okay, if you're new to stage lighting or you've been around for a while, you'll see these terms thrown out a lot by manufacturers. You've got spots, you've got washes, you've got beams. Okay, those are the three main types of lights, whether moving or not. Now today we're looking at moving lights, but honestly the same principles apply to non-moving lights. They just don't move, and they often don't have as many features that you can change remotely via DMX. Okay. And then the fourth kind is hybrids, or fixtures that fit into one or more class, which I believe is probably the most abused title in fixture type, and watch through till the end so you learn more about why. Okay. And so what we want to do today is really show you in person, because this is one of our most popular videos where we showed in a visualizer the difference between spots, washes, and beams. But now, hey, we're in a bigger studio space than we were a few years ago. We have fixtures, we have the ability to really look at this stuff and really show you the differences between these different types of lights. So, when we first start talking about lights, the most common type of light we often talk about are wash type lights. This is a Volux Sysma Z4. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead here and let me go ahead and pop off some of these other fixtures. Okay, so wash fixtures, whether like the Sysma Z4 or our waterproof Dominar Par S, which is also a great small par for lots of situations, are a wash type fixture. And what makes a wash fixture is generally how you see the beam has a soft edge to it. Like right now the Sysma zoomed in all the way, but if we zoom it out, let's just put it in the middle or all the way, we're going to see the edge of this light, and you can see it. You can probably see it in my hand. As you come into the edge in haze or on the ground, physically in the space, you're going to see that the edge of this light isn't like a perfect defined circle. It's soft, okay? And that has some massive benefits. Whenever you're lighting an object, okay, a person, a set piece, the walls, whatever, lighting it with a soft light is always going to be more forgiving. Not only does it look better on the object you're lighting, like you see it there on my hand, it's very soft, it's very nice, it blends nice. As people step in and out of it, it's not jarring. And when you have multiple fixtures and you're creating an awesome even wash on your stage, check out our video on that here, you'll not see the transitions between the lights. It will be nice and smooth. It will be nice and even. And that's what washes are good at. Now, some other things we get into with washes is generally most wash fixtures these days are LED based, and they offer color mixing. So the LEDs themselves change color. In this case, we have an RGBW fixture. A lot of times with wash fixtures, we like a good RGBW because RGB white fixtures or RGBW fixtures give you like the most brightness out of the LEDs because you're not sharing it among like 6 colors, but you also get pretty good color quality typically. Okay, and that's true with the Sysma. It's not going to blow you away with its color quality scores, but it does a good job, and it makes a lot of rich, deep, saturated colors. Okay, wash fixtures may or may not also have zoom, as we talked about. So the Sysma, for example here, zooms from 60 at its widest all the way down to 2.5 degrees. Now that starts to bring us in that hybrid territory, though I don't love that term, but this essentially makes a beam that looks, kind of like a beam fixture, right? Where if I shine this in the air out there, you can really see there as it passes the camera that it's a really tight, a really defined beam. And that's a really positive thing when you're using haze like we have in this room, right? because most wash fixtures, and when this isn't at its tightest, when you back off even just a little, that edge starts to get soft, and that weird blooming you see there, that's more a lens aberration from my lens than anything. But what you see basically is as the light gets softer, when it's not at its narrowest, let's tilt it back down, it becomes more vague, it becomes harder to see in the haze itself, right? It's not as apparent of a beam of light shooting through the air. Does that mean it's not good as a backlight? No, it still can be great for a backlight, and most backlight systems have wash fixtures. You just have to be aware they're not going to cut through the air like a spot, like a beam. That is one reason, just as an aside, why we like these Sysmas so much. Not only are they priced really well, but when you do bring them into the very end of their narrow zoom range, you get it so tight and the circle is really hard on the floor, and that helps give you a nice beam through the air. Okay, let's turn that fixture off and go to our next fixture. Okay, so those are washes, right? They move fast, they color mix pretty much always, which is wonderful. They can have an extended zoom range, which is really great, like that 2.5 to 60, or a lot of wash fixtures are like 5 to 60 or 10 to 60, and that's a really wide range, making it usable pretty close to stage or to people, making it nice so that if it's far away, you can zoom it in tight or go wide. You have a lot of options. Let's talk about spot fixtures, okay? So here we have a Volex Spectra 300, which is a spot fixture. Right now, we have a color in it, and we also have a gobo in it. And so spot fixtures, what they do best, and we're just going to go ahead, let me just clear out my color, gobo, etc. So what spot fixtures do well, if I can stay out of the way of the darn thing, is they have a nice defined beam, a nice defined circle of light, right? You see the edge on this is very hard, and thus, if we compare it real quick to our friend over here, right, and we take our Sysma, we bring him to a rough white, just real quick, pulling our white, we're not really tuning it here, but you can see how, especially once we zoom in, let's just take it about to the middle of the zoom, you can see how much more the edge of a spot fixture is defined compared to the edge of this wash fixture, right? And I can make the colors match. I just need to minus red a little bit, maybe end up minus green a little bit. Anywho, you get closer to matching. But the biggest difference is the sharp edge. And the sharp edge, and typically most spot fixtures are going to be a white LED source or a white discharge lamp source. Okay, but the sharp edge and the fact usually the white source also enables this means that you can put patterns into this light, okay, called gobos, right? And gobos, as we can see, are able to shoot a pattern both through the air and onto a surface, right? And I admit I don't have a good surface here for a pattern, but we'll dig into some B-roll footage that we have and show you a gobo projecting on that wall right there, okay? So gobos are patterns. They're able to texture objects, areas of the stage, etc. In fact, we could just at least just tilt this down. I should have thought through that just a little more before starting. And we see we get texture across these objects. It's not great in this shot, apologies for that, but it gives you an idea. Not only do gobos give you textures on objects, but they give you texture through the air. And with a spot fixture, there's typically two types of gobos in them. Gobos that look good projected on surfaces, like this flower gobo, looks okay through the air. But if we switch to something that has some more negative space in it, it looks great through the air, especially when we rotate it, which many spot fixtures have the ability to rotate that gobo through the air. Okay, so the benefits of spot fixtures are they're great for projecting textures. They're great for lighting objects, for lighting people, for having a sharp beam of light through the haze coming behind a band, etc. Okay, they're really great for a lot of things. The downsides are most of them are going to be a white source, meaning that in deep colors they won't be as bright, and only some spot fixtures have color mixing using CMY color mixing. Okay, the Volex Spectra, for example, it does. So I can dial in some nice deep colors there. Get out of the way, David. You see it starts to get more faint in a deep color, but in a less deep color, it really shines through bright. Okay, and you can use this to your advantage when you're working, so that you've got a wash fixture, and boom, you want to do like a deep blue, a deep purple in that wash fixture. Have at it. It's going to be bright, it's going to be pretty punchy, it's going to look good. It's not going to be as bright in a spot fixture because we're using subtractive color mixing from a white source. Spot fixtures as well, you know, they may have things like a frost filter, which can help soften them, but in general, they're not a great pick for front light. Okay, it's not going to be your go-to choice for front lighting. People use a wash. Use a wash. The wash is over there. Don't use the spot, right? Okay. And so spot fixtures, in a sense, are almost like a hybrid, in the sense that they shoot patterns through the air, but they can shoot patterns on objects. Sometimes they have color mixing, sometimes they don't. But overall, they're just a great pick for seeing the beam through the air really good. They may have zoom, they may have not. They may have color mixing, they may have not. They may have prisms to scatter the beam. This one's got a prism. Let's pop it in. Prisms help scatter and widen the beam through the air. Looks pretty cool on our overhead cam as well. And it gives you a lot of options. There's a lot of things you can do for texturing the stage. Okay, generally we recommend, and I did this in the order, going with wash fixtures first, and then going with spot or beam fixtures second. So getting a good wash on your stage, then adding some excitement. Let's talk about beam fixtures. So here we have the Dominar Beam IP. Okay, this is a waterproof beam fixture actually, and beam fixtures have a couple things going for them. The first you can see probably really clearly right here is that they shoot a very narrow, very tight, very defined beam through the air. In fact, I'm not sure I even have this focused all the way. I don't. And so, you know, the beam that goes through the air from these fixtures means that even without haze, you'll see it a little bit just from the dust in the air. But with haze, they really pop. Okay? Beam fixtures do a couple things really well. They shoot beams through the air. They'll often have prisms in them, as you see here. This is a 8 facet, I believe, or 16. I'll count it later. This is an 8 facet, actually. Yeah, it's an 8 facet, so shoots through the air, looks real nice. You'll have the ability, often, to have a color wheel, but generally not color mixing in a beam type fixture, though that will enter the hybrid discussion in a minute. So you've got colors of all sorts. You're going to have gobos. Most of the time you'll have gobos that help reduce the beam or make it a little smaller. And then you'll have various gobos with different shapes in them. Well, actually, let me get that in focus a little bit better. And you'll see, depending on the beam fixture, depending on the gobo and the distance you're shooting it, you are able to get it in focus. You know, they look okay. They're not as exciting and as different as a spot fixture, but when you combine some gobos with some prisms, oftentimes the prisms rotate, generally the gobos don't, you can start to get some really cool looks through the air, some really great stuff. There's two really big advantages to beam fixtures, okay? Let's just go back to it. Two really big advantages. Number one, the bright beam through the air shooting really far is something you can't get out of any other fixture except lasers, right? That's number one. Number two, they're generally the least expensive of any of the three types of units, okay? Oftentimes they're about the same price as washes. Sometimes they're less expensive than washes, okay? So they're gonna have that ability to do a tight beam, but generally a limited feature set alongside that. So generally not color mixing, you know, you'll have a prism or two, you'll have some gobos, still can create great shows, but because of the lack of color mixing, having only color wheels and stuff like that, they're not usually great at transitioning between colors smoothly, etc. Now, one that does stand out is the Elation Darts 360 that has RGB color mixing. It's a great fixture. It's older now, but they still make them. They're still a good fixture. Okay, let's talk about hybrids. So anytime you've got a light that can kind of do multiple purposes, like this Sysma Z4 can get narrow like a beam, but also do a wash. So we call it a beam wash a lot of the time. Or a lot of times, larger fixtures, they'll often be like hybrid profiles, and profile just means a light generally that has framing shutters in it. That's generally what that means. But when you get into more expensive fixtures, a lot of times you'll see fixtures that'll say, oh, we're a beam spot wash hybrid. Look carefully at that, okay? If you're kind of in the mid-range where you start seeing those hybrids, a lot of times it means that it may be like a spot beam type hybrid, and this fixture's not really one, but in the spot beam hybrid space, a lot of the times that means it's not quite as good as a real beam, and maybe it is a spot, but in terms of beam performance, like, it's not going to be as good as a dedicated typical beam, okay? But you get both out of one fixture. So when it comes to hybrids, you really got to look at it fixture by fixture. There are some fixtures that can do beam spot and wash well. They're typically on the pricier end, right? And so it's just something to be aware of, something to look at, something to think about, so that when you're looking, you know what you're getting. I hope this has helped you a lot on just this quick dive through wash, beam, and spot fixtures. As you know, guys, we love to help people find the perfect fixture, whether moving or non-moving, whether spot, wash, or beam. And so if you're looking for any of these type of fixtures, you're not sure what you want to get, or maybe you are sure what you want, hit us up over at LearnStage Lighting Gear. Just go to our contact page. You can leave us a message, send us an email at gear@learnstagelighting.com, or just go add some stuff to your cart, hit the request a quote button from your cart. We love to help people find the exact right fixtures and get them in their hands. So if you've been thinking about spot versus wash versus beam, moving versus not, just let us know what you're doing. Let us know about your space, and we'll help you find the perfect fit and get it in your hands. If that sounds good, head over to LearnStageLightingGear.com. We love to help, and we want to be the most helpful place to get lighting online, and really the only place that's focused on just lighting for all sorts of uses. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the site. And if you're new to lighting, head over to LearnStageLighting.com, grab a free guide as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.